We are on.
Okay,
Mr.
great.
Duved Dunayebsky. Nice to have you on, man.
Nice to be here.
Well, so we are both Hebrew speakers, but we're going to do this in English because the audience is, that's they're not going to understand our ramblings. So, yeah, man, I wanna get to know you a little bit. So, I know you from, your playing and a lot of the helpful content you put up on YouTube. So, you're one of the, I would say, most you made it a point to be a very authentic kind of guy, it looks like, but also like really in a specific niche in this style that we're all trying to kind of study and battle with. So I want some background, like how did you get into this kind of music? When did it start for you?
Well, I definitely I didn't start with this style. I started playing like most guitar players. I was playing Nirvana and Metallica and whatnot. Then Jimi Hendrix, and then I was playing fusion jazz for
Uh-huh.
until I was, I guess, 19. And I kind of knew
Hmm.
Django, but I mean, I liked it. And when I started playing the style, I didn't really play the what you mentioned. It was not an authentic jazz. I didn't have background of traditional jazz.
Hmm.
I was more doing what gypsy jazz is, which is, as I feel, is well, it's you can call it an evolution, but it's also a style that is lacking a certain knowledge of traditional jazz. Lots of people that play it, they know only the modern musicians, and they don't
Hmm.
have background of the traditional jazz. That I think that's what gives it the Django sound. Once you have that, so I didn't start.
Sure.
I was playing, I was listening to Birelli and all the good guys and playing their licks until one day I didn't want to do it anymore because I didn't see the point, and I started to. Well, the end goal was not to play pop genre. At first, I wanted to do it, but I
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it makes sense because it's, to me, if people that actually want to play, I guess in a style or like somebody or inspired by somebody, it seems like the worst thing you can do is just learn their solos, because that's the one thing for sure they didn't do, right? Like Django didn't learn Django solos to become Django. He was immersed in an era inside, maybe it's like something about Louis Armstrong, or the what Paris was in the 10s and 20s that shaped the 30s, right?
sure, exactly.
So
But
how did you well
like mentioning in when I give lessons, or if it's workshops or the online lessons, I say that it's kind of you have to eat what they ate to grow like they did, so you have to listen to music that was before them and get the kind of the context of the time.
Sure. Well, what would be your critique of gypsy jazz today? Like, what was the thing that turned you off personally? Like, that made you
I
not want to grow this certain way?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to make it clear, not to piss off people, because I don't want to anyone get it on the wrong idea. Like, everyone can do whatever they want, but I wanted to.
Yeah, it's about you. This is
Yeah.
your interview. We want to get to know you, not this is not, you know.
Well, I felt all of a sudden that I was not able to just sing a melody. I was able to play big licks over chord changes, but I was not in real control of what was coming out. It's I felt it was like playing with broad brushes, and you can give
Mm,
big colors, but I wanted to be able to go into the little details and do the little, you know,
yeah. Is
yeah,
that's really the danger of learning licks, because at
yeah,
the end of the day you get to play the licks you learned, but if you don't feel a personal connection between the vocabulary that's coming out of you, you're probably designing your growth in a very strange way. And I agree with that. So how did you go about changing? Like, what was the change from, like, what you would consider like a gypsy jazz player into, the thing that you became later?
First of all, I very consciously. Well, at the time, I was gigging, but I was not. Let's say I was not yet a professional musician in a way that I made my money from that. I was still, I was still living at my mother's place. So I could so I could afford kind of deconstructing my playing and
Mhm.
for a while and really not play things that I didn't mean to play and very consciously throw away out things that are influenced from maybe years before, but they had nothing to do with the specific language that I was trying to do it at the time. So it was really practicing on forgetting not bad habits, but picking what things I actually want in my playing. It was
Mm.
less learning new things, more stop using automatic responses.
Sure. And you're bringing up a real solid point that a lot of people, let's say if you're living in New York and you're paying rent playing guitar, how can you afford to reconstruct your technique when you have to go out there and use things every night? So it's like reinforcing bad behavior makes it stick to your playing. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So at what point did you move to Paris?
So it's like 5 years ago. Now
Okay.
now I'm 29. So
When you were 24. And
yeah.
how was that move for you? What was it like initially? How'd you get in the scene? How did things start happening?
Well, at the beginning, I was super excited, obviously, because I'm from Israel, and there was when I started playing this music. Again, it was not with the same approach, but gypsy jazz, let's say. There was only one band except for my band at the time, so there was not. It was hard to get information about the thing. Everything was new for me.
Mhm.
So coming here and seeing all these people play it, it was very exciting, and it was, it was Tironitz. How do you say
Boot camp.
boot camp? Like going through just head in the wall. I mean, going to the street, meeting the musicians, try to get gigs, just eating at the gig because you don't make enough money, and sharing a little apartment with lots of musicians. The usual stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah, dude. That's fascinating. So, and a thing I want to ask you about, which is, I mean, a lot of other people can learn from you, probably myself included, which is like, the way you present yourself. It's very clear that you're thinking about this, and you're not kind of an unaware guy, and I think it's also like, it's a factor in the fact that you're succeeding in this scene and climbing. You're really kind of putting out a very whole kind of image, and I was like, how conscious is that for you?
well, I always say, and I really mean it, that but it's not a business decision at all. It's just that for me, my music, my lifestyle, what I like, what I do is it's one thing. There is
Yeah.
no time for music, and then I go home and it's different. I'm exactly the same like, on stage, and the it's the whole lifestyle of if you imagine Django and these guys, going and drinking and playing music, and that's what I do. So
Yeah. You drink and you play music. I love it. That's what I do too.
yeah, but
You just seem to do it with more class.
yeah, but what I mean by that is that there are no, I don't know, there are no interests in other worldly
Yeah.
things. It's only about that kind of romantic story that I own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. I mean, it's really cool. Where are you now? Where are all these paintings?
I'm at the apartment of my girlfriend,
Oh, wow. Well,
and
wonderful.
she's a painter. So
Oh, okay. Very cool. So let me ask you a little bit about some music stuff, which is, and I guess the question would be to get an authentic sound, the thing you're going for. When you're playing with, let's say, a rhythm guitar player, what are some things that you tell them? Like, what are some things that you don't accept when people, I guess, play the way people learn to play from YouTube? How would you coach your rhythm player to play in a way that would make you comfortable?
um, So specifically with the rhythm, I guess I will tell them what voicings are not acceptable.
Hmm.
Again, it's stylistic. It will be just out of style. And again, it's a thing that I mentioned in my online lessons. If someone will play a minor seven chord, uh, you would have situations that a minor seven would be acceptable if it's a two chord, but and also depends. I will avoid that. But if it's, for example, a minor tune like minor string or whatever, the first chord to a minor seven, it's well, any other. So this is the first thing that I tell the rhythm tablet.
Right.
And obviously, I mean, there are many things. The La Pompe, there are so many different. Okay, let me tell you that. The two
Hmm.
main things are the notes that I just mentioned, and the other is with contemporary gypsy jazz or Turkish. The accents are more like 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4,
Mm.
which is swing style. Listen to Django, not always, and he's a continuous style, not always so hard on the tempo, but he was definitely
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So, what's your practice look like these days? When you sit down with some time, like what do you do?
To be honest, I don't practice almost at all, and I should. And normally, what happens is like I don't practice for a month, and then I am like, oh my god, this is not, I'm not doing very well here. So I practice for maybe 2 days, and then it gets fine, and then again I don't do it for a month. But the and then the practice that I would do would be the most boring stuff. It's just for the hands, for the technique to stay in shape. So
Hmm.
nothing special. The arpeggios and maybe focusing about being able to play with the right hand in a kind of a fluent movement without stopping your hand. When you do the arpeggio to be able to play like a bow.
Hmm. Right. Yeah, just work on circular motion and
Yeah.
using gravity kind of thing. Very cool. So let me ask you about a little bit about career path. Like, what are your gigs looking like right now? Are you playing mostly in Paris? Or are you traveling in all of Europe? Do you do the festivals?
Um, I do travel a lot, and since 2 years ago, it's starting to open up for me. All of a sudden, I got invitations and to festivals and gigs and whatever. Most of
You
the
do
time,
all your managing and booking yourself?
I again, it sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not really searching for gigs. People call me for gigs, and so I don't have
That's
a
great.
budget, but I'm very fortunate. And again, it's only in the last 2 years that all of the sudden it happened like that.
Yeah.
And so festivals in Europe and also in the US, and yeah, and just 2 days ago I finished my first album with my orchestra.
Ah, very
Uh,
good. Congratulations.
Thank
It's
you
the
very much.
Pre-Bop Orchestra, right?
Orchestra, exactly. We were 13 musicians. We had a singer coming from New York, and all the music is original. I wrote it with two other guys, but we did it together, and it's a kind of crazy music influence from some classical music influence inside it. Like,
It's amazing because it's like, to me, the scene that like is, it looks like it's create like that you're in, and it's created really around you and with you. There's almost like like there's overtones of like it's as if like the world happened again and it just went a slightly different way. You know what I mean? Like, like as if there were more people like going the Django route, but then like they just took like this slightly different turn, like from like an offshoot of history, you know?
well, that's exactly what I wanted to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, because it's funny, like thinking back about this kind of era that you're like romanticizing. It was an amazing era artistically, but a horribly shitty era for the world, right? It's like for Jews and Gypsy specifically, which
Yeah.
you know, like it's amazing that some of these people survived and some of these records made it out. So it's almost like right now it's like, okay, let's just reset to that kind of headspace. But now we have studios, instruments, people that have time to write music, don't have to hide from some Germans,
Mhm.
and let's see what happens, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what's the arrangement process like for the pre-bop orchestra?
So
13 musicians, there has to be a lot of arranging.
yeah, so I am not trained in any how do you say? I didn't go to the conservatoire or anything like that, so I
Hmm.
not write music. So it's pretty annoying for Adrian Delmer, who is my musical partner in the band, who is he did his masters or whatever in class arranging and composing. So basically, I have an idea, and I come to him and I play for him the melodies and the little hits and whatnot and the harmony, and I give him the idea of the tune. It's it's an annoying process for him because he has to just listen to me and try to understand what I want, and then he writes it down, and then I tell him no, but here it's not what I meant, and voila. And sometimes he gets an idea and he just says, "Okay, I did this here," and I say, "Oh wow, this is great. This is better than what I wanted." So,
Yeah.
voila. So it's like
So
that, and
it's a real producer kind of relationship. You're just like, I want this to sound awesome, pow pow pow, and then it's like okay, how about this? It's like that's even better than I thought. Let's do that. Or like no no.
the most the songs, I would write the clear melody and the clear harmony and the structure of the song, and I will
Sure.
know it will be a verse there and a transition, and I will play in the notes. But in some places, I will say, here I don't have a coherent idea.
Hmm.
Sometimes, and try whatever, and in the album we were three that did that because there's another guy that just joined us, Daniel Dalnitsky, who is
Hmm.
a world, I don't know, level classical violin player and arranger and everything. So this is his first jazz project,
Mm.
and we're friends. So he just joined. So this time I did the two tunes with him as well, and you can really hear the different style. Like with Adrian, it's really 20 stuff and smaller harmonies, let's say, and with Daniel, it's not bebop because but it does touch harmonically the 40s with very big harmonies and a bit
Hmm.
Wagnerian um, kind of dissonance to it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. So you got to tell us some crazy stories. You seem to me like a guy who got himself in situations. I don't know. It's like I talk to a lot of people. I'm from the fusion world. I'm not from the gypsy jazz world. And we right now I'm on the road. We live on the road basically. So I'm much more connected to your energy than a lot of these people who sit at home with YouTube that I talk to, you know, and that I see in this gypsy jazz world. So I understand being out there and being a little crazy. So you gotta tell me a road story, like a gig story. What's some crazy shit that happened to you?
To be honest, I don't think that any of the stories are for.
Oh, public consumption. No worries.
I have to think
It's
about
funny. It's funny. I had I don't know if you know him. There's a guitarist in London that was on this show, John Etheridge, and he was in Stefan Grappelli's band. He was the guitarist in the '80s, and he was telling us like Stefan stories about Django, and it's an amazing kind of thing about like the biggest gig at like the French embassy, and like the whatever, like the 30s, and like they show up to the gig and Django's not there, and they take a car, and and it's like it's an official ambassador car. They go through Paris, they find him in like a pool hole, they like
it.
scream at him, they drag him back, and on the way back, because it's an official car, it's like the army guys like salute the car, they have to, and Django's like looking out the window, it's like they sent the army to salute me. They understand my genius, you know.
Yeah, class.
Yeah, yeah, classic stories. Yeah, but
Actually,
man, it's say
here in
second.
Paris, sorry, who goes? I go. Here in Paris, I play with sometimes with a guy called Olivier Franck, which
Mm-hmm.
you heard about him. He's a saxophone player, mainly soprano. He has the
Sidney Bechet sound. I love him.
exactly, exactly. It's actually the saxophone of Sidney Bechet that he has, and he was playing with musicians that played with Django in the Rome sessions, like with the pianist, I think, drummer was it. So again, um, all this kind of well, it's not first hand but second hand for him stories about Django on the road. For example, I think it was in Rome, and he goes with Babik, or was it with Luçon? With one of his sons, I'm not sure, but Babik, Luçon was the younger, not sure. Anyway, and they go to a shop of like toys for kids and whatever, and they go out, and then his son stole something, and Django sees it, and instead of like, what the fuck did you do? Pardon my French.
Oh
And
no. Good.
he was so proud of him. And
That's awesome. Yeah, dude, it's a lot of times like our heroes, it's instead of that in music, it's so weird. It's the opposite of what it is in other fields. They like encourage us to be a little bit psychotic, you know? Like in rock and roll, they all like didn't even survive to see their 30s. And did
early jazz musicians also,
yeah, yeah, it's amazing because it really seems like the straighter edge the musicians get, the shittier the music gets. Like that correlation, you have to be a fool not to see it. Like these fuckers were off the fucking chain, right?
Yeah.
They were crazy. Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, all these. On the American side of it, it was a bunch of real junkies, you know. On the European side, it seems like, Django was just like walking the street, kind of half manic, just, shredding, like blowing people's minds, and just like, all right, fuck this, gonna go bet, like gamble some and drink.
I think you have to keep the music, sexy and alive, really, and not take it too square and seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, maybe it of course seriously in a way, but not square. It has to be fun and games.
Well, your life has to be. You have to live in a way that's not. That's a little bit dangerous, because if there's no danger in music, if you're not the kind of guy that takes chances in your life, how are you going to take chances improvising? It's an instinct. It's just, you're walking down the street. You want to see the guy that takes a turn down a shady street and see if he's going to be okay.
Sure.
Yeah. So there's that. I mean, it's in English we call this playing with balls. You got to play in a ballsy way, or it's just that it's not interesting. There's a great the poet Charles Bukowski has a thing, like a little excerpt, and he wrote that the only thing interesting in people or in nature is courage, right? Like when you see an animal acting courageously, it's hungry, it's going to do something, if it's being chased, it's going to run in a courageous way, and that's what draws attention. I think in art, it's exactly the same way. Like nobody cares about just skill. You got to see skill mixed with this desire to make something happen, something interesting happen, and you definitely do that. So it's good. It's very like I feel like I see you play. There's something that's drawing me. So that's props to you. Very cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So when's this album coming out?
Well, so like I said, we finished it 2 days ago. We have to choose the good takes, mastering.
Mm-hmm. How did you
Yeah.
How did you record this? Like, what kind of approach did you take to it? I'm assuming
I was
didn't go very modern.
I'm
assuming.
Yeah, no. So I was looking for a guy that would know the style. It's very important for the sound engineer, obviously, to know the aesthetics of the music. If you're going to do it with someone that doesn't know the music, it's just not going to work. And I got a recommendation from some of the musicians in the band and the guy was perfect. Name is Simon Orion,
Hmm.
and he did it with one microphone for the first,
Mm.
like a ribbon microphone from the 40s. Um, it sounds. I heard like I said, we didn't finish he didn't do the mastering yet, but I can already tell you that it sounds fantastic, and the
So
recording.
you're all sitting around it in distances. The real mixing or the real mix part of this is just your distance from this one mic in the room. You really are conscious of that.
Exactly.
And for a solo, you just lean in closer.
That's exactly.
Really, that's amazing. That's like the old, um, what do you call it? Like the bluegrass way of doing it. But I'm assuming with Django Records, I don't know. Did they do it with one microphone?
Yeah, they did, and you can see in pictures. Well, we did the same. That Django sits on a higher chair, so the sound is gets to the microphone kind of in a different angle, and we did the same thing. It's and like I mentioned, we had a singer as well, so that was the only fitting. She had a microphone for herself that was connected to uh, headphones, so
Hmm.
she could hear herself in with the 12 other musicians. Yeah, but all the sound comes from of the album would be from this one microphone, and
Mm.
it's very cool.
Let me ask you about this. So a guy like you must be very frustrated with amplification, I would
Mm,
assume. How do you deal with this?
that
This would be the number one. This would be the number one frustration in this kind of music. Let's say you're in a club, people are talking, right? What do you do for volume?
well, I never figured it out. I don't think there's no magic formula. I can tell you that it really depends on the occasion. When I played, for example, in Django in June,
Mhm.
was it Django in June? I think it was in Django in June. Anyway,
Was it in Boston or yeah?
yeah, but in more than one festival, even in front of hundreds of people or in thousands, I don't know. We said we're gonna do it acoustic, completely acoustic, because
Acoustic, no mics
no mics, and it works.
outside.
People were shocked. No one made a noise. It's like a classical concert, but it was also in a venue, not outside. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, it's like a big room with lots of people, and we're guitars. It's not like
Of course, it doesn't project like that.
yeah, and but we did it, and that's my favorite. It's the best. People are much more. They're listening much more when it's like that.
Sure.
You don't boom their
Yeah.
ear.
If anybody coughs, they lose a note. It's like they're gonna keep it in.
Exactly. But in other situations, like more like a bar or whatever, it really depends. Sometimes there's nothing you can like. When it's my gig, I don't amplify, but I more than often I play with other people that call me for a gig and they tell me you have to amplify, and we do
Sure.
that. Then still, if people talk louder and you amplify louder, it doesn't necessarily it becomes like a war,
Of
between.
course. Yeah, it gives them permission to talk. That's really what it does. It says like, yeah.
If they don't want to listen, there's nothing really you can do about it. So.
Well, there's a lot of things you could do. I'm sure you tried. The question is what happens after.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, so what kind of things what would you bring to a gig to amplify? Like, would you use one of those pickups or like
I,
a little condenser? Do you
well,
just hate everything?
again, it depends because it happened to me that someone tells me you have to come to this gig with like a steamer style,
Hmm.
up, which I don't know how to play with this thing. Oh, I don't know. I play really differently with the thing. I don't think you can do
Hmm.
the same. Just it doesn't work. You don't have the same dynamics and
Of
like.
course. I was talking to on this thing. It's coming out today. Ari from AJL Guitars. He
Hmm.
was talking about how he builds this master guitar, like that takes him like a month of work, and it sounds amazing. And then somebody puts a steamer on it, and it sounds like the shittiest Strat.
A toy, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like just
that's amazing. Yeah, it's just a single coil pickup with nothing going on, no dynamics, no high end,
Mm.
just like all mid range, just woo, 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 you know. And then they're like,
Uh,
why play this style of music?
yeah, completely. I recently got myself a new microphone that is it's a microphone. It's not a piezo, but it's a touch microphone with like a
Mm-hmm.
body around it. So it's the air between the top of the guitar and the microphone is sealed. So it can get much louder without having any feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And the sound is quite acoustic. From the things I tried, that's the best it gets in a room that is prone to, feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's
And the
a
one,
Yeah, often I will use in a festival also just a mic on a stand. That's fine.
mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I think for a lot of people who are not coming up with the experience of playing in an ensemble setting is that they don't actually have the physical technique to be heard over a bass and another guitar. And
Mhm.
that's really where a lot of this technology is coming in, where people who are electric players who are just used to dialing in their sounds and playing very soft and don't have a rest technique together and don't really know how to make the authentic sound. They're always in this battle to find a better pickup, a better microphone, because I think you're acoustically rooted in the sense that once you start messing with this, then okay, the bassist is now coming out of the monitor, the guitar, so more guitar, then feedback, so it's just a game you can't win. The simple solution seems to be just to play well the way you would play acoustically, put one mic in front of maybe the whole band if you
Sure,
needed it, and have nothing in the monitors.
sure, sure.
Yeah, that seems to be the way to do it. Well, where can people find you online, Duved?
Hmm.
Your
Well,
name will be spelled above, so.
okay. No, but the thing is that I'm not concentrated on that. Uh, I don't have like a website for myself. I did a website for the orchestra, but I never maintained it, and it's like an old picture and whatever. The best thing is Facebook because every time I have a show that I care about, which is not just a gig, if it's something special, it would be on my Facebook page or on my orchestra's Facebook page. Um, that's it. And like,
Yeah,
and people are welcome to send me personal messages as well if they are saying like, "Yeah, I'm coming to Paris. Is there anything interesting?" Sure, I will answer you and tell you. But yeah,
awesome. Well, dude, thank you for doing this. You're maintaining some sort of spirit of this thing alive, which we all appreciate from a distance.
pleasure.
And yeah, dude, we'll have you back when we have more questions. I think a lot of people are gonna dig this quite a bit. So, Duved, thank you
All
for
right.
being here.
Well, thank you.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Ciao.